Blueberries, nutritious, delicious, and with a beautiful flower, can make an excellent landscape plant. However, due to their unique characteristics, they can be difficult to grow. In this video, I'm going to give you my tips, tricks, and hacks on variety selection, how to plant blueberries, how to fertilize blueberries, how to prune blueberries, how to keep those pesky birds away, and so much more. Hi, I'm Dr. Tom Warren, and you're watching The Plant Doctor. Let's get started. So an important topic that we need to discuss with planting blueberries is variety selection. So there's really three things we need to look at with each variety that we're selecting for the garden. And the first one is chilling requirements. So chilling requirements is going to be the number of hours below 45 degrees Fahrenheit that your area gets. For me here, I'm roughly 600 hours per year with being below 45 degrees Fahrenheit. So I want to select a variety that has a chilling requirement somewhere in that range. For example, if I choose a variety that has a chilling requirement that is for a more northern climate, and say I live in North Florida, I may never get blueberries because I don't get enough chilling hours. So chilling hours are the signal for the plant to begin flowering. And if we don't get enough chilling hours on some varieties, they will never flower. The second topic we need to discuss with varieties is that specific variety self-pollinating or does it need a pollinator? If you're looking to grow just one plant, you'll want a self-pollinating blueberry. If you're growing one in just a container, you'll want one that's self-pollinating. If you're growing several blueberries, you may want to consider one that needs a pollinator. To my right here, you can see a list of self-pollinating blueberry varieties. And here's a list of non-self-pollinating varieties. These varieties need a pollinator in order to produce sufficient fruit. The third topic we need to discuss with blueberry variety selection is when you're going to have fruit. There's three kind of key seasons with blueberries. We have early fruit, mid-season fruit, late season fruit. And what I like to do with my blueberries is to plant some early season, some mid-season, some late season, and they'll actually kind of cross-pollinate with each other. So when the early season ones are going out of season, there's still flowers on them. When the mid-season ones are beginning to bloom, and they'll cross-pollinate a little bit. And as the early season fades out, I have mid-season berries, still a few flowers on there. As my late season berries begin to come in, those flowers are starting to initiate. I still have mid-season flowers, and the bees can work back and forth between the mid-season and the late season and pollinate the late season. So really I can have blueberries starting in April all the way through early fall. It's all about variety selection. What you see here is a list of blueberry varieties that are listed by when they bloom and initiate fruit. We have early season, we have mid-season, and late season. What I like to do is select from this grouping some early, some mid, some late, and that way we have fruit for the entire growing season. There's really two planting seasons with blueberries. We have a fall planting season and we have a spring planting season. And you can plant in either. My personal preference is fall, and the reason is with our chilling requirements, you're gonna initiate some better fruiting more than likely when you plant in fall. So you'll plant it in the fall, it goes through your winter chilling requirements in your specific environment where you live, and it's gonna be in sync with nature come springtime, when to flower, when to leaf out, when to produce fruit. If we plant in the spring, the plant is going to survive, it's going to be fine long term, but if it was grown in a southern environment and shipped north, you may not get those chilling requirements on that plant that specific year, and it may not initiate flowering and fruit. So that's why I recommend planting in the fall. So there's a few things I want you to specifically do when you're planting blueberries that we may not do for some other plants. So today we are planting blue crop and blue ray blueberries, and these are rated for zone 7. I'm right on the line between 8A and 7B, and one year I may technically be a 7B and the next year an 8A, so I'm right on the southern extreme for these plants, but I know of some in the area that do really good, so I'm going to plant these today in my garden. So when planting blueberries, there's a couple things we want to look for with our site selection. The more sun that you can give them, the better. They'll do okay in part shade, but you're not going to get the berry production you otherwise would if you give them full sun. So strive to find a full sun location for your blueberries. Also, you don't want an area that is heavily clay or stays moist all of the time. We do not want to put these in saturated soils. I'm in luck here. I don't have to worry about that too much. I have extremely sandy soils here, but if you live in an area that has heavy clays or is constantly saturated, you'll want to find an area in your yard that's not as heavily clayed or heavily saturated to plant your blueberries. So after you have selected the right location with the correct amount of sun and a soil that doesn't hold too much water, you'll want to begin to plant your blueberry. Dig a hole that is twice the diameter or larger than your root ball. For example, if you have a blueberry that's in a 3-gallon pot and that pot's roughly 1 foot across in diameter, you'll want to dig your hole out 2 feet in diameter. We want to loosen that soil up as much as possible so when we backfill, those roots can easily go through that soil. In terms of how deep to plant, I want you to plant your blueberry just a little too shallow, just maybe a 1/2 inch above where you would normally plant other plants. The last thing we want to do is pile a bunch of dirt on top of the root ball. That's just going to hold in too much moisture on a plant like a blueberry, and that could lead to some consequences that we don't want to deal with. And for my fashionistas that are watching the channel, no, this was not planned. Blue shirt, blue shorts, blue shoes, talking about blueberries. It just happened. I'm not that hip. Back to the main topic. With fertilizing blueberries, the ideal time to fertilize them is early spring, and I like to use an organic fertilizer. Organic fertilizers work with the soil microbes in the soil to break down that fertilizer and provide it for the plant. So most soil microbes are more or less dormant during the winter. Put out organic fertilizer. As the soil begins to warm up, those microbes begin to awaken. They'll feed on that organic fertilizer, and then as our blueberries begin to leaf out, they have the food that they need for spring. My preference for organic fertilizer is a product from Espoma. They actually have 2 products you can use on blueberries. They have a product specific for berry production, but they also have one for hollies. And a pro tip for you here, if you look at the ingredients for the berries versus the ingredients for the hollies, it's almost the exact same. So if they don't have the berry fertilizer at your garden center, look for the holly one. It's almost identical. I'll also leave a link for both of those down in the description below. If you're late putting out your organic fertilizer, my preference for synthetic fertilizer is going to be Osmocote. It is a slow release blend. It has all of our macronutrients in it, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, as well as micronutrients. An additional topic we should mention with fertilizers is that blueberries are in the family Ericaceae, and these are going to be the acid lovers. Azaleas, rhododendrons, blueberries, pieris, they all fall into the same family. They love a pH between 4.5 and 5.5. You may live in an area where your soil pH is not that low. That is very acidic. One thing you can do to lower acidity and make your blueberries more healthy is to add sulfur to your soil in late winter and early spring. Now, sulfur in and of itself is not going to lower pH. All pH is a measurement of hydrogen ions in solution. So we're measuring the amount of hydrogen that is floating around in soil solution. What happens with sulfur is it is broken down by bacteria in the soil, and as a byproduct, hydrogen ions are released, therefore lowering our pH. Watering blueberries can be a little bit tricky. On average, they want to receive about 1 inch of water per week. However, they can be really finicky with how you water. They do not like to be constantly in a state of moisture retention where the soils are always saturated, and they do not like to completely dry out before being re-watered. Ideally, during the summer months, you need to water 2, maybe 3 times a week if you're not getting rain. If you're getting rain showers, I wouldn't worry about it too much, but if you hit a period of a mild to moderate drought, you may find yourself needing to go out, water your blueberries just a little bit to keep them happy. Pruning our blueberries can be very important. There's 2 things I want you to look at when considering to prune blueberries. One is for plant health, and the other one is for blueberry production. The first thing we're looking for when pruning blueberries is any dead wood. Dead wood is going to be more grayish in color. Live wood will be more of a red color on blueberries. Always look for that grayish wood and remove it. Also look for any branches that are crossing each other. So when branches cross each other, they can rub against each other, causing the bark to come off, and that is a place for infection to occur on our plants. Also, by removing branches that cross, we tend to be opening up the canopy of the plant a little bit, which allows more sunlight to get into the middle of the plant. As your blueberry matures, as it becomes 3, 4, 5 years old, you're going to see something called canes. So the natural growth habit of blueberries is cane type, and they'll produce 5, 6, 7, all the way up to maybe 15 canes. Every year you want to go in and remove about 1/3 of those canes, and additionally remove about 1/3 of the top of the blueberry plant itself. Removing canes is going to encourage the blueberry plant to put on more flowers, therefore producing more and better fruit for us to enjoy. Blueberries have one major pest, and that is going to be birds. The birds are not going to bother your blueberries until they are actually blue. And one way we can prevent birds from getting on our blueberries is with netting. Originally, I had a netting with a fairly large mesh that kept larger birds out, like cardinals and robins and mockingbirds. But the smaller birds could get their beaks between the webbing and still poke little holes in the berries. So I got a very fine mesh net, and it also has a drawstring on the bottom that allows me to tighten it up around the bottom so that birds cannot go underneath the net to get blueberries as well. I'll make sure to leave a link down in the description below for a netting that'll keep birds off of your blueberries as well. I hope this video was a help to you in growing your blueberries. Hopefully you'll be more successful because you watched this video. If you have a tip, trick, or hack that we did not talk about in this video, please feel free to leave that down in the description below. We're a community of learners here, and we're always trying to learn from each other. Guys, as always, thank you for watching The Plant Doctor, and until next time, happy gardening.